Support for this episode comes from Modern Football Technology. Modern Football Technology provides real-time opponent tendencies and self-scout while eliminating manual data entry into Hudl, DV Sport, and Exos. If you're tired of tools that are time-consuming to learn and perform inconsistently at best, then we recommend Modern Football for a fresh perspective. Schedule a demo today at teammofo.com to see a battle-tested tool that's proven to perform and deliver value. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code CC10 to receive 10% off your first year. And listen to our recent episode featuring Folsom High School defensive coordinator Jordan Ersick to learn more about how the 2023 California State Champion uses modern football to dominate their opponents.
I just put it on and I shut up, and then I just listen to them communicate. And then they get into it, they start to communicate. It does make the walkthrough absolutely more effective because it's not the first time they've actually seen it. I think that's something I would take with me anywhere I would go.
Lee Rose got his start in coaching in Poland. He learned very quickly how to work with limited resources and to make his teaching and coaching clear and concise because his players were limited in their use of the English language. From that experience, he has been on a quest for finding the best practices in teaching and coaching, especially as it relates to the classroom portion of coaching. After a stint with Indiana, he's now the defensive analyst for North Carolina. Today, he shares what he puts together in a tip sheet to be sure that players have the information boiled down to the essentials, as well as how he would go about it if he were back in Poland or at a lower level. In addition, we dive into a discussion of how different technology can be integrated into a smooth workflow. I link 3 courses that highlight the use of this technology in the description. Be sure to stay tuned for our winning edge takeaways and ideas for implementation following the interview. What you see on tape is a direct reflection of what you teach and how you teach. Video is important, but if you don't teach well, you're not going to like what you see on your video. First Down Playbook has been helping coaches teach better for 13 years. It allows you to present installs, playbooks, and practice cards in half the time with NFL quality. Coaching tools like video pairing, a player app, practice schedules, and wristband sheets have made First Down Playbook a program management system with everything in one place. If you're in a position of leadership with your football program, receive a free 1-week look at First Down Playbook. Call them at 512-814-6158 or visit them on their website or social media. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code COACH24 to receive a $100 discount off the normal $700 First Down Playbook team membership price. Links and the phone number are in the show notes. Today we're going to talk about the power of sharing information in a clear, concise way via the tip sheet, as well as how our guest today learned to adapt and tinker with things in a situation where he didn't have many resources. Now he's at the Power 5 level as a defensive analyst, and joining us is Lee Rose from North Carolina. Lee, great to have you here on the podcast.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate you having me on.
Part of this is a little of the background you had that brought you to this point here, and your first experience in coaching, you go over to Poland and you have to teach things to a group of guys who don't speak English, right? So really the teaching part, you have to be clear and concise. You have to be careful with your language. There's all those barriers there. And for you, it was an opportunity really to dig in and learn from ground level what I need to do to best teach these guys.
Yeah, that's right. I think that experience has benefited me in several ways, and part of that is just from a teaching perspective and how to communicate with guys. Going over to Poland in 2018, I was a younger coach, younger defensive coordinator, and it was a great experience, but yeah, you're teaching guys whose English is not their first language, so you have to be very clear, have to be very detailed, and then you have limited resources at that level, similar to the resources you would have at the high school level. So I was armed with Hudl, PowerPoint, and 2 meetings a week, essentially. So how did I most effectively teach clear, concise concepts to them and get them to play cover 2, cover 3 the way that we wanted to get that done?
And so you come back to the United States and you're looking to learn the game more, right? So when you get there, you're obviously teaching us at some of the basic levels, but you wanted more. You wanted to learn more. I think, though, that this experience probably benefited you as a teacher now, looking back at it.
I think, yeah, I would agree. I think it developed a curiosity in myself, a real interest in learning the best practices in our profession. And so coming over to the Power 5 level, 2021, I came back and was able to join with Indiana University and Coach Tom Allen, and just learned a ton from working with the GAs there, with the support staff, with the position coaches, what they were doing, how they were teaching, and using some of their tools to teach the players. And now I'm at University of North Carolina as an analyst and worked with some other great guys. And we've had Rob Everett on, and I've learned a ton from him in terms of using Pro Quick Draw, Go Army Edge, and using just kind of the integration of those systems to provide resources such as a tip sheet to teach the players and help them understand football 101.
So now in your job as an analyst, I mean, you're going to get a ton of this data ahead of time. And your job is to really filter through all of that and get to the things that are going to matter most to help you guys win on game day. And an important part of that, in addition to giving that to the coaching staff, is to put things together in a way that's going to be clear and concise to your players. So I want to dig into the tip sheet and best practices in putting together a tip sheet. We're going to talk about this both for the level you're at, but then also think about how this applies and what tools we can use at the high school level too. But let's start with where you're at right now and just the way that you put this together and, as I said, filter down all that information. What are some of the best practices you found?
What I've found is that we can put together a tip sheet here based on the atypicals that you're going to get week to week. So what I like to give, last year I worked with the defensive backs, and what I like to give them is essentially a 1-page, 8-box of atypical formations. I need to clarify, there's 8 boxes, but on the left-hand side, I'm having the routes drawn. These are DBs, so generally it's passing routes, could be run routes. And then on the right-hand side, if you imagine, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, on the right-hand side is an actual screenshot of the formation. So the left side would be more of a Visio document, drawing of the route, and the right side is a screenshot of the formation. Okay. Now, what I'm using to do this tip sheet is I'm using Pro Quick Draw, which can be integrated through Catapult with PFF. And so for me, I can organize a 4-play cut up, click a button, and those routes and that screenshot is thrown right into that tip sheet, left, right, and they get their pictures. I even have space as well to write in some notes or type in notes. Guys, when we get this formation, we're checking bunch or box, right? When we get this, we do this sort of things. And giving that to them on a 1-page sheet is really effective. We also do the same thing with bunch routes so they can get a clear view of here's what they look like in their bunch, here's where they align, whether they're on the hash, off the hash, and then here's what that route looks like. Yeah, I know that not everyone's going to have those resources. I mean, we're pretty fortunate here at University of North Carolina to have the ability to use Pro Quick Draw integrated with Catapult. But if I were to take this back to Poland, I would still use Pro Quick Draw to do that because you can, and I know you've probably talked about this at length, how some of the benefits of Pro Quick Draw, but you can organize your library of drawings where you don't have to spend all day drawing it up. You probably have a diagram very similar to it versus your week 1 opponent that you can use for your second week opponents. That's how I'm giving a tip sheet to the guys.
It becomes a very efficient tool in how you save time in putting this information together. And you look at the evolution of what Pro Quick Draw was, starting from just a drawing tool and really becoming an integration tool with what they've done. And I think that's the biggest thing. I don't care if you're at the high school level or you're a Power 5 team, we all have limited time. And so being able to use tools that help you make your workflow more efficient is going to allow you more time for the important thing, which is teaching your players.
Right. And let me add, like, as well, I mean, we are using Pro Quick Draw as well, I think, in a very effective way by using it for our pattern match periods. So just with our back end guys, every Tuesday and Wednesday in season, we're going to have a pattern match period. And we want to tailor that to our opponent. So we don't want to reuse the same pattern match cards every single week, because not every single opponent's going to give you the same routes or the same alignments. But using Pro Quick Draw is going to allow you to drag and drop that play into box 1, box 2, box 3, where you need it to go. And then having that library built of, here's my 2x2 open routes, here's my 3x1 open routes, here's my motion to bunch routes. And so now in my second year into it, the DB coaches can come to me and say, here's what I want for pattern match tomorrow, these 8 routes, and I can make that in about 3 minutes. Where, and in season how important that is.
Yeah.
That direction to make pattern match might come to you at around 11 o'clock. So you don't want to be sitting there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, drawing up routes on Visio. So 3 minutes is much better.
Definitely. Well, Visio obviously is the tool at the higher levels. I know small college and high school, I use PowerPoint a ton, and the integration is there for that as well. I mean, PowerPoint and Visio really are built on the same platform.
100%. You're right. Yeah, you can use PowerPoint to build your Pro Quick Draw library as well, and it works the same. I know the offensive guys here are actually using PowerPoint with their playbook drawings, which would work the exact same as pattern match, for what I do with pattern match.
This is the time of year, high school, small college too. I mean, we don't have necessarily the staffs that have all the, guys like you or analysts to put things together. The coaches have to work on this stuff, but I think it's a good time to go through and start putting those things together so that when you hit the season, you're more efficient. I mean, the difference, right now versus the season, there's always the sense of urgency. There's a test at the end of the week that's not going to wait for you. You start on time, you kick off on time. It doesn't matter if you got the work done or not. So a way to get that out of the way is to start building templates and looking at what are the things you're going to face. Some of it, I think, it might be a little bit of speculation. I mean, if you've seen something that's really become popular out there on the clinic circuit, or finding things on the internet, hey, it might be time to put some of those things together so it's ready for your players. But it's all, whether it's PowerPoint, Visio, whatever, there's the copy and paste function. That means you don't have to start from scratch on every single play. You move a few lines around, so that's good. As coaches, we know that some of the biggest hurdles to our team's success can come from off the field. Your team needs support to tackle the endless list of expenses, uniforms, training equipment, travel, and more. But raising that money can feel like a full-time job. Thankfully, there's Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with a local fundraising coach who works with your team every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser. With options for online donations, digital discount cards, premium product sales, and even spirit shops, Vertical Raise has top-of-the-line solutions for every fundraising style. To find out more, visit verticalraise.com and we'll get you connected with an exclusive offer on your first fundraiser. I think the other thing that's cool, though, with this, and we've been talking to coaches about, is the integration with Go Army Edge. And the way that Go Army Edge can be used a number of ways to make time with your players more efficient. From lining up from form rec against a projector rather than a scout team who's got to go look at a card and then line up. I mean, you're going to get so much more in as far as the reps. But going back to that integration, when I first learned about Go Army Edge, it was actually Rob Everett, somewhere around 2014 at AFCA, walking by the booth, and what the heck is this stuff? Amazed that it was free, but it was difficult to integrate into what we were doing because I had to take what was already in our playbook, and it was a PowerPoint playbook, and then draw it up again. And the best part with the integration tool, PQD, is you don't have to do that anymore.
Right. Yeah, you can take the formations that you want. You've already got the formations drawn. So yeah, you can take those drawings and throw them right into Go Army Edge, and you have now a 3D model of that formation. And what's nice is they can take it a step further. They can have the guys, you can visually see a huddle, an offensive huddle. It will break out into a formation. You can visually see motions from one, receiver going from one side to the other side. And then, like you said, you can get a room full of position players and sit in a meeting room. You are on your computer and the projector, and then we can go through the communication. And I think that's a really effective tool weekly as you game plan for opponents, because it doesn't take long to put together an 8-play set for the guys to go through their communication. And what the best way we use it is for atypicals, so our unbalanced checks. And you're going to get that a lot in heavier personnel, so 22 personnel sets, where we have to communicate where the safety is going to be down, where the tilt is. We can communicate really effectively in a classroom setting before we ever take the field. Another way I've seen it used is you can take your walkthrough script. So if walkthrough today is going to be atypicals or unbalanced formations, you can have that script go right into Go Army Edge and go through your walkthrough before you ever hit the field. So go through it in the classroom setting where maybe there's not music playing and a bunch of stuff going on. You can just sit here in a quiet setting, go through communication, force them to communicate, and that's really effective. Another way we use Go Army Edge is bunch routes. So DB room, that's where we spend a lot of time talking about stacks and bunches. How are we playing stacks and bunches this week? So we don't want to live in the same bunch check every single week, because we'll get torn up in the ACC if we do that. So we will change it up based on what we see from a bunch route perspective. And Go Army Edge is really nice because you can throw that in there and you can see the bunch routes. And not only can you see it, but you can see it from a first-person perspective. So we can line up the nickel back outside the point or inside the point based on game plan, and he can see what it looks like standing on that field as opposed to watching it on film. Snag 7 flat looks a little bit different from the coach's copy sideline than it does when you're 2 yards away from the receiver. I think that's a good way to use it as well.
That first person is really important when you're teaching new concepts. And again, it's the efficiency thing, right? How can you show them this multiple times with a click of the button? And going back to atypical formations, right? I know that's something from even my high school days. Our defensive coordinator every single week had funky formation period, and it could be things we were going to see, or maybe we wouldn't. Maybe things you didn't see on film. How do you adjust to those things, right? How do you not burn a timeout to get aligned within your rules? I think it's great, in installation to be able to do that. And again, going back to, okay, I can be more efficient with walkthrough now, and I can throw some of these in during the course of the week. Maybe it's not in the game plan. It's not necessarily you want to go and chase ghosts, but to me, it's solidifying their thinking and their communication. And are you right? And having it on a screen from press box view or all 22 is a lot different than when it's right in front of them. So I think that's just a great way for these guys to learn, and to have them standing up, it becomes an active meeting rather than the passive meeting where they're sitting there with the lights off watching film.
Right. Yeah. I just put it on and I shut up, and then I just listen to them communicate, and then they get into it. They start to communicate. It does make the walkthrough absolutely more effective because it's not the first time they've actually seen it. I think that's something I would take with me anywhere I would go, is that atypical formation communication, and then as well, just football 101 when we bring in a freshman. So this year I'm working with the linebackers, and we've got some mid-year guys. And so I'm taking them through, okay, here's our base coverage. Here's a basic 2x2 formation. What's our communication? Who are you looking at upon pass? Where are your eyes going to go? And then you can give them some basic routes. Just 2x2, 4 verts. What are you doing? 2x2, vert out with 3 on a bender. So we can get through some of our basic stuff with some of the incoming mid-year freshmen and just get reps, because that's what they need reps, and we only get 15 spring practices. So I think that's another way to use it.
Yeah, so important for the newcomer. I mean, you think about how many times you have that freshman who comes in and, he's in the fall, he's not a mid-year, and he has all the ability, but he's behind on learning the game. Well, this is an opportunity to get more of those reps. And really, if you set it up, I think what we're going to start to see more and more is just the use of the Oculus, so that it doesn't have to be in a room with a projector, that the individual then can go and work. Essentially, I think they're still called the drills, but it really is just a playlist, right? Where they can go through now and start to look at these things and get those mental reps and visual recognition, and even with themselves or with a teammate watching on that projected to the television screen, because the Oculus will project to your TV, that somebody else could be sitting in that room and communicating with them. Maybe it's an older guy, maybe it's a younger guy, but now they're working together. And I think you made an important point there. You turn that on and step back. And that was one of the things I just didn't expect, right? I thought that period where for the first time I was going down in that racquetball court with my offensive line and putting up, all their blitzes and pressures, that I was going to have to direct them through it. And it took about 2 minutes to realize, go back up top and watch what happens. And you interject a little bit if they get off course or they said something wrong. But that learning now isn't that top down, it's in between them.
And they need to be comfortable communicating with each other. And so I think that's what this allows you to do. And I just wanted to kind of piggyback on an earlier point that you made about this is a good time to get into this sort of stuff. I wanted to point out I really started using it last May. Once we got through spring ball is when I started to dive into it, because I saw that the offensive side of the ball was doing a lot of this stuff and it was really interesting. And I was lucky to work with Rob, and he was very open in teaching me. And so myself and the student assistant here just dove into it head first, because we had time while the coaches were on the road recruiting. And it was the perfect time for us to learn it and to start building it out. And it really was easier than we expected. I mean, the first day was the hardest, but after 2 weeks, we started to see how effective it was going to be. And now 1 year later, how quickly we can make things, and, we're adjusting to it. So yeah, I think anytime is the best time to start. Action's always better than inaction. And I think once you get into it, you'll realize that it's effective probably at any level.
You mentioned to me that you've become really interested too in how Go Army Edge works with the Oculus. And I think the best starting point for that is with quarterbacks. Back when it was just Google Cardboard, was using it with them a little bit, but the opportunity to grow with that. And as you and I, before we got talking, I said, well, it's definitely quarterbacks. I think that is things, the quarterback comes through to everybody like, yes, this is the application. But as you get into it, I think, and as you learn, okay, this is how I used it for the quarterback, you see that every position has decision making. Every position has some visual recognition, that we could take that and start to create some things that, again, that first person perspective now, actually in the play, not watching a screen in front of you, moving your head around and it's moving. Like, now you have something that's even more powerful in your training.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, last spring I was able to play around with the Oculus from the quarterback perspective, and that was really cool. I mean, and I never played quarterback at any level, and I just was overwhelmed really with, you line up, you're looking at the defensive formation and they're shifting around, or you might have 7 on the line of scrimmage. So from that perspective, I think it's really interesting, because, you could probably work on setting blitz protections, keying the safeties, and finding out who's open. So that was really fun, and I think that could be a great teaching tool for quarterbacks.
Bringing this back to some of the stuff we started with, because we went some different directions here and talking about these different tools and technologies, looking at putting together a tip sheet. As I said, I think it's a very important part of your teaching. And I go back to the days when it was, it was paper. We printed it out, gave it to everybody to look at, the night before on the bus in study hall. They should be studying, but they would look at it there. Your advice for best practices and just putting one of these together, regardless of the level of, again, filtering through that formation, what are things that probably should put on that tip sheet every week?
I think you want to put your third down adjustments. So the way we are doing it here is, I'd like to say we give one tip sheet. We really give more than one.
Sure.
So we're going to give a third down tip sheet with their top concepts on third and medium or third and long, 3rd and 7+. Then we're going to give a tip sheet that's going to be more catered to the red zone. So, and low red zone. So that's going to be from the 3-yard line to the 13, where they may not be in their goal line package, but their offense is probably a little bit different than it is on the 40-yard line. So we're going to give a tip sheet for the red zone, and it's going to be their top concepts, top formations, and it's going to be a picture of that top formation, so we have a great idea when we go out there what we're expecting. And then we're going to give a tip sheet for atypicals, which is going to be your wildcats or your heavy personnel sets, or could be 13 personnel and they come out and empty. And we may not be in a package that's designed to be played against empty. So how are we going to communicate that? So those are 3 tip sheets that we give weekly: a third down, an atypical, and a red zone, that are critical situations that are going to affect the outcomes of games. And we give that weekly so that we have great communication as a unit when we go out there.
Coach, I love what you're doing, and I really appreciate that you've shared these ideas here with our listeners. For our listeners, you can follow him on Twitter at Coach Lee Rose. Coach, again, great talking to you here, and appreciate your time, and best of luck to you and the Tar Heels in 2023.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate all you're doing for football. You have a good one.
Here are winning edge takeaways and ideas for implementation. 1. Like Coach Rose, always keep learning and looking for tools that help you teach your players in the most efficient way. We do not want to waste time. 2. Find ways to make your meetings interactive. Coach Rose mentioned how you would put the Go Army edge up and step back and shut up. I experienced that as well. The players can direct the process. Learning does not always have to be top-down. Richard Feynman, who is a physicist and Nobel Prize winner, said, "If you want to master something, teach it." Allowing our players to communicate, help, and even teach each other will solidify the communication and processes we are teaching them. 3. Technology can be a tool to bring a younger player up to speed, give a player the extra work or attention he or she needs, and even allow them to work on their own or together with other players to get their understanding of concepts to where they need to be. Some of the technology mentioned in the episode, like Catapult and PFF, are expensive and for the top levels only, but Go Army Edge is free, PowerPoint is easily available, and if you value an integrated and efficient workflow between Hudl, PowerPoint, and Go Army Edge, a product like Pro Quick Draw is affordable for any program. If you value time, then figuring out this budget can provide huge benefits for you as the coach, as well as the players you teach and coach. Be sure to go to coachingcoordinator.com for enhanced show notes with links to related episodes, resources, articles, and with our winning edge takeaways detailed in text. Also sign up for our free weekly tip sheet, which highlights the best ideas from the previous week, trending episodes, and featured resources. Follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski.